Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Live Free Now show, bringing you the news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. And today we are going to be talking all about agorism, revolutionary market anarchism, specifically how you can help grow the counter economy. We're going to be chatting with Mike Swatek. We'll ask him how that's actually pronounced. And he is the founder of a website called Agorist.Market. Agorist.Market. It's the Agorist marketplace where agorists and counter economists have business listings offering up their goods and services on the market. And it tends to be a lot of people that are not fans of the state, that like to trade in cryptocurrencies, that like to avoid and defy the state, just like old Samuel Edward Konkin talked about in the New Libertarian Manifesto. So we're going to be chatting about that site. We're going to be talking about agorism, and we're going to talk with Mike about the importance of growing the counter economy, which has never been more important, in my opinion. We're experiencing some massive growth and surveillance, and governments want to put the squeeze on people's ability to conduct trade and commerce without their prying eyes being there. And we got a lot of solutions on how we can avoid that and overturn that. First, I want to invite you to check out livefreenow.show, livefreenow.show. This is the website for the podcast where you can find the blog, you can find the previous episodes, and you can subscribe here. If you're watching on YouTube and you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please do that. I imagine that channel is going to be gone someday, but let's get everything we can from YouTube before we get pulled by Alphabet Incorporated. But yeah, go to the livefreenow.show, sign up for the website. And I also want to invite you to check out mybravebotanicals.com. That's mybravebotanicals.com, where we now sell Delta 8 THC vape, which is pretty gray market. And I'm not allowed to ship to 11 states. I can ship to 39 of them. You'll be able to find out which one's on the website. But this is a isomer of Delta 9 THC, which everyone's familiar with. And I got to tell you, it does get you high, and it is legal. And it is pretty damn cool. So we now sell that at My Brave Botanicals, mybravebotanicals.com. You can go over to the CBD THC tab. We have a sativa and an indica product. We also sell the vape pens. So go ahead and check that out. And I guarantee you will not be disappointed in that product there. All right, without further ado, let's bring on Mike to chat about Agorist.Market and agorism and all that good stuff. How are you today, Mike?
Good, John. How about yourself?
I'm great. Thanks so much for joining me. Maybe you could just start by introducing yourself to the audience and sharing how you learned about agorism and why you think it's important.
Okay. Let's see. My background, I'm an engineer, retired. Actually, I've been involved in agorism a good portion of my life. I just didn't know that's what it was. More recently, after I started my business, PPM Silver, I started looking toward the agorist community more for, selling my product because I like doing business that way. And so I guess I discovered agorism. It's been a few years back when I read Konkin's book on the agorist primer and all that. And yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's the way to go these days, especially. So yeah, you have your own business as well, and you're a functioning, practicing agorist. Tell us a little bit about your business here, ppmsilvercosmetics.com. ppmsilvercosmetics.com is the website.
Okay, we manufacture and direct sell high silver concentration personal care products. We market our products as cosmetics because the FDA has certain restrictions, and then people can use their property however they choose. And it's been interesting to hear a lot of the feedback about how silver has helped people with things that sometimes have been an issue for them all their life. And it's just a good feeling. I'm helping people, and now I'm also more of an agorist. So I'm out there doing my bit to promote freedom.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to sell health products that the FDA doesn't like because they're agorist in themselves, in that they defy the state, and the state doesn't want them to be sold really unless they're FDA approved. So those are really some of the special health products out there, the ones that the FDA does not like. Shout out to Lisa Marie coming out of Oklahoma, where you're from as well. For the audience listeners that don't know, can you describe what agorism means to you?
Agorism basically means freedom. You know, I'm not concerned about restrictions on what I do as much. I mean, there's certain things I have to do to keep from becoming a target, but beyond that, I have a lot more freedom in my business. I really enjoy the idea of doing business outside the banking system because the banking system is the root of most of the evil in the world today, and anything we can do to throw a stick in their spokes is a good thing.
Right on. And so was that some of your motivation in creating Agorist.Market? Can you share about that website here? We'll go ahead and check it out here for our video audience. What's Agorist.Market all about?
Well, uh, in August of 2019, I was looking around for places where I might be able to list my products to the counter economy. And I found a couple, but they weren't working properly at the time. I wasn't able to actually place a listing after several months, and it looked like these weren't going to get up and running. I decided, well, okay, I've been doing websites since about 1992. I can do a website, and I decided to put one up that's just super simple, no script, no cookies, no, doesn't even detect your device. So if you're on a phone, you might have to turn your phone sideways to see the page properly. But yeah, I went ahead and created a website. I put it out there. I started visiting with people and just communicating. You know, Ernest Hancock over on Freedom's Phoenix, and Alma Summers, who's knows everybody, and
Couple of troublemakers right there.
yeah, really. And as of uh, Black, a couple of weeks before Black Market Friday, we had about 30 listings, and those are businesses that continuously offer or trade whatever it is that they're into, not just one-off things like a Craigslist, for example.
Well, it looks like there's a lot more than 30 listings now. I remember you helped me to get my listing set up. Here it is for the viewing audience. Old Brave Botanicals there. You can't go wrong with that. But that was just before Black Friday. And it looks like since then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 new listings. So keep it up. Let's peruse through here. Let's say you're a business owner and you want to set up a website, which is something a lot of people want to do. So the thinking behind all of this is we need to grow our network. We need to grow commerce between and amongst agorists because the government, and this is something we can talk about more in the interview, the government is increasingly surveilling, increasingly intrusive, increasingly shutting down people's access to markets. And so now more than ever, it's important that we develop these relationships so that if the government tries to shut us out of the technocracy or flip off our little switch from our blockchain digital identity or our Fed coin universal basic income or whatever, I wouldn't accept it in the first place. Although I did cash my $1,200 check, I should say. I don't know if I lose Agorist points for that, but if the government's sending me a check, I'm going to cash it, whatever. But let's say that we're a business owner and we want to set up a new website. So we first go to Agorist.Market before we start surfing online. And let's see what we have here. So business listings by category, all sorts of categories you got broken down. And it is a pretty simple website, but simple is good and simple makes it easy to find stuff. So what should I look for here? Computer or internet? What would something like that be under? Digital goods? You still with me, Mike?
Yeah, there's a long list, and it keeps growing because I invite people to let me know if there's a category that they need that's not there, if their business isn't represented in that list. And so we're still adding categories as things growing in that
Yeah.
way as well.
I found internet services here. So you want to set up a new website, you go to internet services and look at that. You have a hosting service, agorishosting.com. This is actually who hosts all my websites. They accept cryptocurrency. In fact, they prefer cryptocurrency, and they would be able to get you set up with a website. They also build websites as well. Looks like there's a cybersecurity service here. So this is pretty thorough. Virtual assistant, that's nice. I have a virtual assistant. Maybe I should do business with these guys. They accept Monero. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So what would you say, Mike, are some of the big concerns on the horizon as far as people's ability to do business without the government knowing about it? What are you looking out for? What are you concerned about?
Well, I know that they're going to be, trying to attack people's ability to communicate. They already are. And so that's one of the reasons why Agorist.Market in the main menu over on the far right, you'll see IPFS. What's that? Well, it's the Interplanetary File System. It's a completely decentralized third generation internet communications means where you use an app to communicate directly with the decentralized network, which now when I connect, well, I have a node running, so I mean, it's always connected to at least about 300 nodes and sometimes over 500 nodes. So it's a strong decentralized network. And on Black Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving, uh, we actually had about 200,000 page hits that day.
Wow.
And yeah, and I think it tripped the DDoS protection or something. And so the site was down for just a little bit. Now, Agorist Hosting, they're used to dealing with these things. They had it back up pretty quick. But the interesting thing was during that period of time, the IPFS mirror of the website, linked from that IPFS page, just cruised right through, man, not a hitch. So if anything happens to the site, if they cut off the domain name or, in any way attack it, if you have a browser that's IPFS enabled so it directly accesses the distributed network instead of going through the domain name system, you'll continue to retain access to Agorist.Market. No sweat.
That's great. And it seems as though as the government continues to clamp down and increase their power, there is this counter effect where every action has an equal and opposite reaction, where the agorist markets grow and the agorist solutions grow just the same. And it's like in communist Soviet Union, for example, they had almost total control. Well, they tried to have almost total control over commerce and business and trade. And in reality, that created one of the largest agoras, or open agorist markets outside of the purview of the state, that's ever existed. And one thing that we see here in the United States, as more control and surveillance pops up, creates more opportunity and more growth in the agora. And I think with all of the COVID edicts and rules and emergency orders, we probably have more agorists now than ever. Like if your city said no more than 10 people gathering, or no more than 2 separate households gathering together on Thanksgiving, and you and your family got together with 12 people or 3 different households, then you, my friend, are now an agorist. So welcome to the club. What do you see as far as some trends and growth in the agorist community? I know about 10 years ago, a lot of people hadn't really heard about agorism as more obscure, and now it's seeming to become mainstream, at least within the liberty community, the voluntarist community. What do you see as far as trends in the growth of participating agorism and people familiar with agorism and the work of Samuel Edward Konkin?
Well, it definitely is growing. It's growing in several ways. First of all, just the awareness of the counter economy, because the mainstream economy has ceased to function in large part. So people are trying to figure out, well, how am I going to buy meat? How am I going to get the stuff I need? And they're finding that the stores, even if they do have it at the store, they've got these uh, tyrannical mask restrictions and stuff. I personally have not worn a mask but one time this year, and that was to clean my chicken coop. And I will not wear a mask for any reason. And so there's that aspect of it. Agorists are not going to require you to do anything along those lines. Uh, as far as the online agorism, uh, after Agorist.Market was uh, put out there, the folks over at Agorist Nexus kind of decided, hey, this is looking like it's really a thing. And so they got their site working again. So now there's already two. I just had a visit with a guy this morning who's setting up another one. So we're going to have all kinds of online agorist opportunities. And there are other things out there already. There's the Open Bazaar slash Haven app that's totally decentralized. Also, local Bitcoins has a market. So if you have a business, you can, put your stuff out there for Bitcoin Cash. So yeah, it's growing, it's getting bigger. People are learning about it. They're now looking for agorist solutions, whereas before they just might have stumbled across it because it wasn't really something that there was a way to find. Locally, I try to do business as much as I can with, I've been trading, I have bees, and so I'm rotating my flock right now, so I'm not getting any egg production from my chickens. So I was trading my honey for eggs. Well, while visiting with them, I started telling them about my products, and now they're interested in trading my silver personal care products for ground beef. Turns out they have cattle, they butcher cattle from time to time, and so, that's how it spreads. It's just talking to people. Everybody you meet, you just need to talk to them. What's going on in your life as far as agorism, and just share with them what you're doing and what you're looking for. Because one of the things I learned many years ago is if you want something, you need to let people know about it. If you let people know about it, it's a lot more likely to happen. And so that's a big part of it, is let people know what you're looking for. You'd be amazed.
Yeah, it really helps to manifest it. If people don't know what it is you're looking for in life, you got to set your goals, share your goals with people, and talk to people to develop those relationships. I want to shout out real quick the folks that are watching on D.Live. We stream to my Live Free Now channels, and we also stream to the Conscious Resistance channels. And D.Live is one of those applications that's outside of the purview of big tech. They allow some pretty radical thought there. Here we have a little GIF or a little graphic of someone mooning. So that's a lot of fun there. So yeah, and I always have people that say, thanks, Derek, when I'm doing the videos. I guess they think I'm Derek Bros, which I guess is a compliment. He's a pretty good looking guy, old Derek Bros. But thank you so much for tuning in at D.Live, where we have more freedom. They're not going to shut us down. At least we don't think. And also for the folks that are watching on Float.app, Float.app. It is a voluntarious, liberty-run social media network that also is picking up this stream from the Conscious Resistance channel. Here we have someone from YouTube saying, saw Mike on the Corbett Report. Brilliant stuff, Mr. E. I interviewed James Corbett just recently. He has a great big audience. He's been doing work for over a decade now. How'd that interview go, and did it result in an increase in traffic to the website and awareness for Agorist.Market?
Oh, that was a huge shot in the arm. That him and he and James or Ernest Hancock were just visiting one day. They do a regular kind of Wednesday thing where they record the show live, and or well, no, not live. It's always broadcast later. But at any rate, they were just brainstorming stuff, and what are the solutions, and what can we do? And Ernest mentioned that he'd done a Black Market Friday promotion years ago, and they kind of decided, yeah, that looks pretty good. But James was going, boy, that's going to be really hard to pull off in 2 weeks, because it was, I think, about 2 weeks before Black Market Friday. And Ernest said, hey, I know a guy, he's already doing this. We just need to pimp his thing. And so next thing I know, I'm actually being interviewed by James Corbett, which was just amazing. And, he's a really good interviewer. And
Yeah.
after that, the traffic just kind of went crazy. And I've had people asking for other features beyond just adding businesses to the list. People kept wanting to just list individual items and services and whatever. And so as a result of that, we've added a new feature to the Agorist Market offerings, and that's a thing called Shop Agorist, which you'll find a link to in the main menu there at Agorist.Market. And basically, it's like a Craigslist for agorists, and it's set up as a Telegram channel, and people just go there, they list their stuff. I've seen that you've listed things there, so that's the latest expansion of it. And that, it's all kind of sprung out of the visibility from Corbett, and then also Patrick Smith had me on Anarcast here recently, and that obviously helps. And now this, and cool stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely catching on. I included a link to Agorist.Market in the show notes that you can find if you're watching live. If you're listening on the podcast, you can also find those in the show notes. There's also a link to the Agorist.Market Telegram group, which people share stuff there, share their business. It's kind of like a social group too, where agorists can come together and work together and share ideas. And then I also listed the shop.agorist, which were the shop agorist Telegram channel, which seems like more formal, like it's a system in place. There are use hashtags to list something up, or if you're looking for something. So it's really cool to see this stuff. And really, at the end of the day, all this stuff is in its infancy. It's only going to experience more and more growth as the government tries to clamp down even more. When did you get into cryptocurrency, and what role do you see cryptocurrency playing in helping to facilitate and empower the agora?
Well, it's only been a couple of years, really, since I first started venturing into cryptocurrency. I really like cryptocurrency. It used to be kind of difficult to uh, deal with from a technological perspective for a lot of people. And I'm an old guy, I don't keep up as much as I used to. I learned to program on punch cards, but, in the last decade, I haven't kept up with the code and stuff. And it was really nice to see the hardware wallets come along because they make it very easy and very secure. When your wallet's not attached, you don't have to worry about your private keys. You can still check and see if you've received crypto. You can, communicate with people what your wallet address is so they can send you crypto, check your balances and stuff. It's just real easy. Uh, Lately, I guess, I've decided that well, I don't care for Monero because it's difficult. I know some people out there are saying, "Oh man, you can figure it out." Well, it's difficult, and there's a new one coming along called Pirate Chain that I really like a lot. It has privacy features on par with Monero, or even maybe better. And so I'm getting on that early on, getting my wallet set up. Brought some R. I'm even running a sale right now for the acronym for Pirate Chain is ARRR. And so I actually have a sale listed on the Shop Agorist Telegram page for transactions using R. So, I really like crypto. And also, I've learned how to do it so that I maintain my anonymity, with my wallet addresses. And that's a real important aspect. But you can do it with any crypto if you just do it right. It's not that hard, really. You just basically have to do things the old-fashioned way. Like if you want to trade Ether for Bitcoin, instead of trying to do it through an exchange where they keep track of all your transactions, instead you just find somebody who will do the trade for you as a person, and then that pretty much cuts the traceability off right there at the knees. And so there's ways to do it.
Yeah, and it's important to always generate a new address because the Bitcoin blockchain is completely transparent, which many people, I guess, didn't realize early on. And if you don't play your cards right, then the address can be tied back to your identity. And if you do not change the address every time, then the person that you send your public address to, which is kind of like your account number, if they want to send you crypto, they can see the entire history of your transactions. They can see that you've accumulated half a Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin. And as I say in my consultations with clients on my cryptocurrency consultations, my mom always taught me never to tell people your net worth or how much money you make because they may think of you differently. And more importantly, you can become a target for hackers in the crypto world. We have a question from Niels Ward, who's watching on Facebook. Which payment method is preferred by agorists? Bitcoin? Question mark. I'll let you take that, Mike, and then I can respond as well.
What was that? You were breaking up a little bit. I'm sorry.
The question on Facebook is, which payment method is preferred by agorists as far as cryptocurrency goes? Is Bitcoin the preferred method? Niels Ward is asking on Facebook.
Oh, okay. The crypto payments I've received have been predominantly Bitcoin, which I've asked for those orders to be $100 or more, but there have been some smaller, not a lot smaller. Also, Bitcoin Cash, which is a little dysfunctional right now because of the hard fork that's going on. Litecoin and Ether, those are the ones that have been most used. So those are the ones I've paid the most attention to.
Yeah, and any cryptocurrency is going to be preferable to the U.S. dollar if you're an agorist, especially with a online transaction using a credit card or Venmo or something like that, because that's more easily traceable. Cash is still a pretty agorist tool. However, if you really want to go hardcore agorist, taking your value away from the Federal Reserve Bank and the United States dollar and the Department of Treasury will help to undermine their stronghold on currency in general in this country or across the globe, really. But I would say like the predominant coin for agorism would be Monero as far as the most value, the most people using it. It has the highest market cap of all the privacy coins. What you're looking for, it's called a privacy coin, which has built-in technology to obfuscate the transactions. It conceals who it is that sent it. It conceals how much they sent. It conceals when they sent it. It conceals everything. It conceals who received it as well. But like Mike said, if you're getting into cryptocurrency for the first time, Monero can be a little bit more complicated. There's some extra steps that you have to take, and you need to make sure you understand it so you can conceal it. There are other privacy coins like Zcash, for example, which is pretty high market cap as well. And then there's one that a lot of the community is getting into. It's called Pirate Chain, and that's the coin that Mike likes. It's called R. My good friend Jack Spirko over at the Survival Podcast has had the developer of R on a couple times, and he is encouraging his community and network to get involved. I have it here on CoinGecko.com. It's only 17 cents a coin, $0.168. That's what it's worth. It's worth 928 Satoshis. A Satoshi is 0.0000001. No, sorry, 0.0000001. That's a Satoshi. I don't even know how to say that decimal. It's 8 decimal places. That's how divisible Bitcoin is. But this might be an opportunity. When I do my consults, I always encourage people to go deep on some of the more predominant coins, specifically the ones that Mike listed earlier. Those are the higher market cap, more used, more staying power. But if you still want to strike it big with the cryptocurrency, there's still opportunity with some of these more obscure ones, some that haven't really come into market predominance. And I think Pirate Chain has a lot of potential. There's people that are talking about it. There's different communities, our agorist libertarian communities all over it. Jack Spirko, Survival, he's got a huge audience. So that's pretty cool. What do you see on the horizon for agorism, Mike? Are there any innovations? Obviously, cryptocurrency, right? Cryptocurrency was a new innovation, but now everything happens so fast these days. It's like cryptocurrency is old news, I guess. It's not old news by any means, and there's still a lot of innovation and development. But besides cryptocurrency, what do you think are some new developments or some new technologies that might help agorists in the future to be free from government control?
Well, one of the things I'm really keeping my eye on is the distributed exchanges, which are able to do exchanges across chains, like being able to trade Ether for Bitcoin, completely automated, but with an escrow service in the middle. So both of the parties' crypto has to enter into the escrow before it clears and the transaction completes. So it's a trustless system. So I'm really watching those. That, especially if it's done right. Now, there's one, Atomic DEX, which is pretty far along. They've been doing some testing. In fact, they're into like their second generation on their app. That one's pretty good. I don't think that most people are going to get any attention there from state actors or stuff unless they're moving large amounts around. But there are still weaknesses because state actors can pay attention to amounts and timing and put the pieces together even after going through something like that. So there's another project, NIM Tech, I think is their website, and they're introducing delays and things like that to cause the state actor's ability to put a transaction pieces together virtually impossible. And so I'm really paying attention to the NIM project. I'm looking forward to that one being ready because it's going to make it virtually impossible, maybe even actually impossible for state actors to figure out who's doing what out there when they're doing a distributed exchange transaction. So that's cool stuff. I'm keeping an eye on that for sure.
Yeah. Something that always comes up for folks that are interested in Bitcoin now, because of course the price is nearing all-time highs. It's actually corrected back down to low 18,000, which I think is a good time to get in for folks that are looking to get in. You like, it's good to buy the dips, right? Even though it's still relatively high, you don't want to wait because it's high and then miss the boat. You want to buy the dip on a small scale. And then if you have a larger stash of cash that you want to use to get into crypto, maybe wait till it goes back down. But again, hesitating will cause you to miss out on opportunities altogether. You don't want to find yourself in a position where Bitcoin is $50,000 a coin and you wish you bought more when it was 20,000. Just throwing that out there. But the question that commonly arises is, well, how do I buy Bitcoin peer-to-peer, or how do I buy it in a way that doesn't require know your customer checks, KYC? And Mike brings up a great point with these decentralized exchanges. Many of them do not require KYC. I will say I've been exploring one. One of them is called BISQ, BISQ, and it's a decentralized exchange. I downloaded it, checked it out. I haven't made any transactions yet, although I intend to. They do have a high fee. Most of the fees are between 5 and 8%. But you can kind of, feel a little better about that if you anticipate like buying Bitcoin when it's 18,000, 10% would be $180 or $1,800, right? So you'd be buying it for almost 20,000, 19,800. That's 10%. So then 5%, we'll just say it's 1,000. So it's the Bitcoin's price on the market is 18,000. You have to pay a 5% fee. You're paying around $19,000. Just think of it in the long term, right? Because if you're going to get involved in crypto or Bitcoin as an investment to hold on for dear life till the future with anticipated gains, then you can expect that the price sooner or later is going to be above 19,000. And unfortunately, that's kind of the cost that you have to pay in order to be more private, right? It's always a struggle between convenience and privacy, or convenience and liberty. And in this case, you have to pay to play. But as I always tell people, one of the most important things that you can do is build out your network, right? Like you mentioned, talking to your neighbors and starting to trade with your neighbors. Where the rubber meets the road is having a community of like-minded people that trade and sell Bitcoin. Can you talk a little bit about the community that you guys are developing and have been developing there in Oklahoma? I had the privilege of, well, I guess it wasn't a privilege because anyone can come. So I enjoyed my time going to Midfest Liberty Fest in Spavinaw, Oklahoma. And I'm here in Texas. I actually stopped driving through Oklahoma because I had warrants from getting pulled over by road pirates in Muskogee County, Oklahoma. So, but those warrants wiped off my record, thankfully, because I never did anything with them. And now I go back to Oklahoma. And of course, Lisa's there. There's some Freedom Cell communities that are thriving. We had one heck of a party at the Copperhead Rally Grounds. Can you talk about the Midfest event and also talk about the thriving Oklahoma agorist community?
Okay, well, it's been about probably close to a year ago now. I decided to start looking for, agorist, voluntarist. Actually, at the time I was looking for voluntarist and anarchist groups just to visit with, around here. I figured, well, surely they're out there. And I turned out I was able to find a group to visit with, and then found out about the Freedom Cells. And Freedom Cells got me in touch with more people, different groups, different areas, all kind of around in this region. And then we finally had Midfest. Now, Midfest has had an interesting history because I tried to have it driving home from the first Jackalope Freedom Festival I'd been at in 2019, I was inspired. It's like, man, we need something like this in the middle of the country. There's nothing there. And so I decided on the way home, I'm going to do it. I'd talked to Alma, who organized Jack Fest. She's the mother of Jack Fest. And as long as it's not an organized event, if it's just spontaneous order, it's just amazing how easy it is. You just put up a
Mm-hmm.
website, you let everybody know, say, hey, look, there's a thing, and everybody goes there and has a good time. And so I set it up for October in 2019, and the campground, it was a nice kind of secluded campground and everything way off the road, but it was by a river. And we had 10 inches of rain the day
Oh
before,
man.
and the whole campground flooded out. So that was that.
Wow.
So decided to do it again 6 months later in April, because October and April are when the weather's best. And at the same place. And then that was April of this year, and there was COVID. And the guy who owns the campground, for some reason, was stupid enough to think his business wasn't essential and, closed his campground down.
Mm.
And so that killed the April event. So then I had a new criteria for, okay, I'm going to find another place. And this time it was, what's your opinion of COVID? And I found a kindred spirit with a campground there at Copperhead, and it turned out great. I mean, it's just a wonderful place. We're going to do it again in April. 17th and 18th is the peak weekend, but people start showing up about a week before. They'll leave whenever. I think at Jackalope this year, there were people still there well over a month after the event.
Oh wow.
So it just kind of happens. So all I've done is set a peak weekend, and it wasn't a huge event this year, but it caused the word to get out, because people around here have never experienced anything like that. Now the word's out. Everybody's going, "Hey man, you got to do this thing," and so I think it's going to be a lot bigger this year, and it's a great way to connect agorists. We have Agorist.Market is a big part of it. You were there selling your stuff. I was there selling my stuff. There were several other people. Uh, Also, like food, we didn't have any food vendors at first. Well, okay, next thing you know, we got people selling food. It just happens. And so it's a great thing. And the other thing I love about these events is when the only rule is non-aggression, it's just amazing the diversity and how wonderful the crowd is that's there. You end up with just every kind of person you can imagine, all kinds of different opinions on things, but it doesn't matter because we all believe in the non-aggression principle, and with that, everybody can get along. It's just an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, it was a great event, and there was a good crowd for the first time. And I appreciate, as an organizer and activist, the whole spontaneous thing, because it really makes it easy work on the person whose idea it was. You don't have to really hurt any cats or get any permits or collect money from people and make sure there's booths set up or whatever. And yeah, you said Kindred Spirits, the guy that owns the campground, they usually do big biker rallies and big biker festivals and stuff. And so I think motorcycle clubs, especially the one percenters, they're like the original agorists, huh? They've been
Oh
involved in
yeah.
the counter economy for quite some time. They're not messing around.
Yeah, a lot of old hippies. In fact, the month before this Midfest there was a thing called Harvest Fest. And basically, that's the big cannabis industry gathering in this region. And I went to that, set up my booth, and was selling my stuff. But I was also handing out a whole lot of flyers and talking to a whole lot of people about Midfest. But I'd forgot some of my flyers, and my wife Leslie brought me some flyers, and I just told the people at the front she was bringing them, so she'd just get to drop them off. And she commented about how I've never seen so many old hippies in my whole
Yeah.
life. You were definitely in your environment. But
Yeah.
yeah, agorism, it might not have been so well known as that back in the day, but agorist in the underground economy, agorism has been around for forever, really. I mean,
Yeah. It's
it's
old as
just,
time. As long
Yeah,
as people have been trading, as long as there's been governments trying to restrict trade and freedom,
right.
there's been agorists. And of course, Samuel Reconkin encourages people to bring libertarianism and the philosophy of liberty to the counter economists that don't know about libertarian or don't know that they're agorists. And conversely, to bring and encourage counter economics and define the state openly to existing libertarians that may be into the whole libertarian party thing, which I believe to be completely inept. And unfortunately, they don't really have a lot to show for it. They're just like Republican light more often than not. But if more folks that were involved in the Libertarian Party were to get involved with agorism, I think we'd see some greater progress. So, yeah, what's your opinion? Like, we just started selling this Delta 8 THC, and it does get you high. And
Mhm.
I'd take some right now on air, but it's really strong, and I'm a total lightweight. So you can go to mybravebotanicals.com. Let me ask you this. There's this tension I see between prohibition or cannabis being on the black, which is expressly prohibited, or gray market, which would be a state that legalizes cannabis and regulates it. But if you still sell it outside of that regulation, then that would be a gray market activity, doing something without asking permission, essentially. Black markets, if it's expressly prohibited, then it's black market. But, this bill just passed in Congress, which would essentially legalize cannabis, but it added all these new agencies and it added all these new taxes and all these new regulations. So Delta 8 THC here in Texas is almost entirely unregulated. I mean,
Hmm.
it's derived from hemp, so there's some hemp bills and stuff like that. Kratom is a better example. Kratom is entirely unregulated in the state of Texas and in most states. Now, mind you, it's illegal in 6 states, but what's your view on cannabis? Because on the one hand, there's people that are being locked up and put in cages and literally having their lives destroyed. And we can't discount the fact that more often than not, there are Black folks and low income families and marginalized communities that get it worse than, the preppy guy that gets stoned at his fraternity and his dad's a lawyer or they have money or whatever just to get it dismissed. The low income communities and African Americans, unfortunately, are targeted at a higher rate. What's your view on the whole prohibition versus legalization, and how does what's your thoughts on the ethics of all that? Because I get it. Like, I don't want, the poor kids or whatever to get locked up because the cops are driving through the poor neighborhoods harassing people. But at the same time, I don't like all of the government regulation in the cannabis market and them taxing it and growing the state as a result of it. There's a tension there. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I've always been in favor of basically legal cannabis and actually no victimless crimes. Back in the 70s, I was a member of an organization called the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, NORML. And back in those days, I was, I guess you could say, heavily involved in the cannabis industry as an agorist. And, I've always thought it should be just totally legal. These places like Oklahoma has, uh, medical marijuana now. Well, what does that mean? First, you got to go to a doctor and get a prescription, and then you got to go ask the state for permission and send them a fee, and they send you a card that says you can buy marijuana for a limited period of time before you have to pay them their fee again. And I just don't believe in that. I've not gotten a card. I'm not interested in getting a card. I'm going to continue doing it the old fashioned way because it doesn't involve the state at all. And that's just the way I am. I don't want to ask the state for permission for anything. And, marijuana is one of those things.
Yeah. Well, so you put that as the highest ethic, just the total freedom over the prospect of fewer people being locked in a cage because they got busted when pot was still criminal. So you would rather have it be criminalized and untouched unless you get arrested than legalized and fewer people in cages. I mean, because that's what I'm saying. Like, I would prefer the black market and gray market, no government at all. But I also don't want to see people get put in a cage. And I honestly don't exactly know what I think would be preferable. Obviously, it'd be preferable if there's no state at all and they weren't messing with everybody. But
Mhm.
it's a tough situation that we find ourselves in. All right. Okay, cool. Well, why don't you give us one more plug for Agorist.Market for the folks that just tuned in, or just to drive it home for the podcast audience? What can we find at Agorist.Market? How do we access Agorist.Market? And how can someone put up a business listing if they want to add their business?
Okay, Agorist.Market is a website. .market is a top-level domain. Sometimes when you type in the address to it, you have to put the https:// just to get the page to recognize it as a link, because it's not a common top-level domain, but it's Agorist.Market. Once you're there, there's a main menu across the top of the screen. If you're using a phone, it might work better if you turn your phone sideways, because we don't even detect what kind of device you're watching the page on, so it is what it is. You'll find first in the menu on the left side is all the listings of businesses, and there's by category, which is probably the best one to go to if you're looking for something, but you can also search by the chronological order that they have arrived on the site. You can search by alphabetized by either in the US or outside the US, or the land currently called USA, which is what I like to call it. Then we've added a new thing, the Shop Agorist Telegram, which allows people to list things as if like a Craigslist. The Agorist.Market is for business listings, connecting buyers with sellers in the counter economy. That's what it is. Then for people that just want to sell this widget, or they're looking for something, or they, got a house they want to rent for crypto or whatever, that's what Shop Agorist is. It's for things that are not persistent over time or in very limited quantity, whereas the Agorist.Market is for businesses who continually offer something. Listings are free. You just click on the list for free there, and there's information about, the simple instructions on how you email the information to be put on the website. And then beyond that, of course, we do have an IPFS mirror of the website. I encourage everybody to bookmark that, because if Agorist.Market gets taken down for any reason, you'll still be able to access it if you've got that bookmark, because the interplanetary file system is completely decentralized and cannot be blocked or censored. So that's why that's there. And it's exciting. It's growing, man. This thing's huge. Right now, we're encouraging everybody for the holidays, don't feed the bankers, don't feed the banking system, don't feed the big corporations, the Walmarts, the Amazons, all these big corporations that are in bed with the government and destroying your freedom every day, wholesale. So instead, shop from Agorist. That's what Agorist.Market is for, and Shop Agorist. Support our community, help it grow, encourage people to list their stuff there and their businesses there. And let's make this thing happen. And as other markets emerge, like Agorist Nexus, I have no hesitation to put anybody else's market on there, because it's not about competition. It's all about supporting our freedom, and that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, not competition, voluntary cooperation. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for joining us and sharing about Agorist.Market, connecting counter economy buyers with sellers. Keep up the good work, and hope to see you sooner than the next Midfest, but we'll definitely see you there in Oklahoma again. All right. Thanks a lot, Mike.
In the neighborhood, let me know, man. You're welcome.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. You take care. Thank you so much for your time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Mike of Agorist.Market, Agorist.Market. Now more than ever, it's important that we begin to participate in and grow the counter economy. The government is clamping down. We see the vaccine stuff coming around where they're going to try to threaten people's employment. They're going to try to block you out of malls and grocery stores, and we can counter that by having our own counter economy in communities where we support one another. We're already trading amongst one another. You don't want to wait till after the fact when you lose your job. You want to go ahead and start building that side hustle, buying and selling with fellow like-minded folks that don't mind if you don't wear a mask or aren't vaccinated. And this is how we can insulate ourselves from a lot of the big, crazy stuff to come. All right, this is the Live Free Now show with John Bush, bringing you news, views, tips, and tools you can use to live a free, prosperous, and healthy life. Find us at livefreenow.show. That's livefreenow.show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace and freedom. I'm out.